Solid Security is one of those plugins that I run on every single WordPress website that I manage, whether it's my own or a client site, because it adds valuable security tools and information that I need to not only feel secure in the website and making sure that everything is running and I don't have any issues, but also just making sure that I'm providing the best options to the people that are viewing my site, to my clients who are trusting me to host and manage their websites. Solid Security Pro has given me those tools, and I've been using Solid Security since before it was Solid Security. It was actually iThemes Pro. I used iThemes for a long time, and when they moved everything over to the new name, rebranded, added even more tools, I've had zero problems with Solid Security Pro, and it's just been a great tool. So let's take a look at one of my websites that's running Solid Security. This is my personal site. From the dashboard, I could see useful information like how many lockouts and what type of lockouts were performed. I could do a database backup right from here. We could see how many threats were blocked. We have our update summary. We have a vulnerable software scan here, user security profiles, as well as a ban overview for users, and then banned IPs. I can either add a ban easy or add a bunch of IPs in, like a range of IPs easily right from the dashboard. Now, what's great is I could go right into site scan, which is something that I have running automatically. And I could run a site scan and it goes through a whole bunch of things. First of all, starting with inactive users to rogue installs and a lot of different areas that it will scan and make sure that this WordPress site is in fact clean and doesn't have any issues. Now, because I set up Solid Security Pro from the get-go with all of the sites that I run, I'm not being reactive to any sort of issue using this plugin. I'm being proactive with Solid Security Pro, and I don't have issues with my sites because I run the software updates and I have Solid Security Pro running on all of the sites. So I just don't have vulnerability issues like I used to back in the day before I had a good tool like this. When I was managing my own dedicated servers and stuff like that, it was much more challenging. So you can see here, scan results, 0 issues found. And then we have an individual site firewall where I can see the threats and what type of threat. Most of these are user trying to log in as admin, which is really important to not use admin as your username because that's always attempting to get attacked. You can see all of the IP addresses and how often this is hit, and then that it's protected by Solid Security. So I know that I don't have any issues there. I can manage individual rules and actually create my own firewall rules here, which might be useful depending on the type of WordPress website that you're running. Most of the time, I don't have to do anything here, but I can change lots of things. Like, for example, if a certain IP address, for example, if somebody visits a specific website address, I can have a specific outcome. So for example, if the URL equals whatever, then I can block entirely. So if you identify a URL or an IP address, you can actually block it right here in the firewall, which is absolutely fantastic. Of course, you can do stuff like that with Cloudflare, and there are other methods before it actually gets to your site. But if you're running your website on a shared hosting platform or a WordPress managed system that has minimal features like I used to before switching over to xCloud, then you could set up custom rules in here and manage all of that right from within Solid Security, which is huge. We also have IP management here, firewall configurations, so we can set how aggressive we want the lockouts and how long they would remain, what kind of message they're getting. And then we can also whitelist IPs or authorize IP addresses here as well. And then we can automate things as well by connecting to PatchStack, which is just a great additional feature. Now under configuration, we have global settings, ban rules, firewall rules engine, local brute force, and most of these have settings underneath it as well. Network brute force. We can enable a magic links option, which will allow the bypass of a lockout. Should somebody get locked out, they can click on the magic link. It will send a magic link to their email, which they can then click and get logged in, which I think is a great option. It also has CAPTCHA integration version 2 and 3, so that we can run CAPTCHA throughout our WordPress site. For example, on the admin login screen, commenting, anywhere where there is a form, CAPTCHA will be enabled. There's a whole section on vulnerabilities, which shows anything that's vulnerable, and of course that is powered by PatchStack. But if you also have PatchStack enabled and integrated, then you can automate all the process of making sure that things are updated all the time, which is a great integration. I don't have it running on this specific site. One of the great things, especially if you have a lot of users on your site, is user security. You can easily see all of your users, their roles, how often they were last online, their password security, how old their password is, and whether two-factor authentication is enabled. This is huge, especially for me with managing clients that have multiple logins. Most of their logins are their cat's name or a 4-digit code that they used a long time ago. I can actually set password rules that require a certain strictness to the password and then also allow passwords to expire after they've gotten a certain age. Now, this obviously is something that you don't necessarily need to set for all user levels, but for admins of the site, it's really good to enforce strict passwords, and you can do that within Solid Security. So I can easily edit this individual user here, but what's great is when I'm able to see a whole list of users and see whether or not their passwords, whether they've got two-factor enabled and all of those good things. It's easy for me to get a bird's eye view of all the users on the site. Now, under settings, I often first come into features. I enable two-factor. I enable passwordless login, which allows it to send an email to the user so that they can click and log in. Sometimes people forget those harder passwords that I force them to use. So I want the passwordless login going. And then with two-factor enabled, there's mobile app two-factor, which I use 1Password and encourage all of my clients to use 1Password for managing not only their passwords, but their two-factor codes. You have email two-factor, and then you also have backup code two-factor as well. So you can have a handful of backup codes in case something goes awry and you need one of them. Solid Security Pro also supports passkeys, which is even better because now I don't have to enter anything. I come to a website, go to the login screen, and then click on the passkey, and it automatically authenticates with 1Password and logs me right in. It's an even more seamless process that's even more secure. So then I can go and create individual user groups as well. If you have a site where you have administrators, you have editors, authors, just regular people that are logged in for maybe commenting or something like that, or you have a WooCommerce site, you have customers that can log into their customer account. You can set up individual user groups, and it's very easy to manage all of this stuff right from this page, or create additional user groups here. Then you can set requirements for specific user groups. For example, can certain user groups manage the Solid Security Pro plugin? Yes or no? Can they create their own dashboards? Are you going to require strong passwords? If I'm mainly making people log in so that they can make comments on my content, probably don't need to have strong passwords. But if they have access to edit content, they probably need a stronger password. And if they're an administrator, they probably need to have a really strong password. So I would enable this. I would refuse compromised passwords. I'd also set password age, which I don't on my own individual sites, but I definitely set it so that after a certain period of time, the site prompts them to create a new password. You can also set skip two-factor onboarding for the first login. Initially, the first login, it's going to require them to go through the process of setting up two-factor. I like to delay that by one login just so that they can get logged into the website and feel like they have access to it and not like I have a bunch of hoops for them to jump through the first time my clients log into their site. But the next time that they log in, they're going to have to enable two-factor and go through the process. And down here is where I would require all of my users for this particular user group to have two-factor enabled. I also have a couple of options here for passwordless login as well. Now, another great option is notifications. There are a variety of different notifications that Solid Security Pro can send to me via email to let me know what's going on with the site. Now, I like to get the security digest typically weekly with most of my client sites. I don't even know why this one's on daily. I'll just go ahead and save it for a weekly security digest. What that's going to give me is how many lockouts, how many vulnerabilities, is there anything that I need to worry about with this site? Do I have any inactive users that haven't logged in a long time? Do I have any users that haven't enabled two-factor? It's giving me information that I need to know so that I don't have to manually go and check all of this information. Site lockouts is something that I typically disable because I'm getting site lockouts all day long. With bots trying to hit the admin username, I just disable that because it's useless information for me. I can also take a backup of the database here, and there's a variety of notifications for all sorts of things like receiving site scan results and stuff like that. I can also get notifications if somebody changes their password, which is something that you might want to turn off if you have a lot of users. And then under the Advanced tab, we have some system tweaks like protecting our system files, disabling directory browsing, disabling PHP and uploads, disabling PHP and plugins, and disabling PHP and themes. So this means that PHP can't be executed upon an upload, which would be a way that somebody could inject a payload into your website if they had access. So making sure that those are disabled is really good. We also have some WordPress tweaks down here, like disabling the file editor so that people can't directly edit files from WordPress, which is typically available here under Appearance and Customize. I can enable XML RPC, or I can disable this as well, which I often do on sites that don't have blog content. If it's a website that is just a brochure website, I will go ahead and disable this, because then it just disables all forms of things that bots are typically trying to hit your website with, and it's just a great feature to turn off. I can also set default or restricted access to the WordPress REST API, which is great also, because if you're not utilizing anything that would need the REST API, you could just go ahead and restrict access to that. We also have login with email and username, or email only or username only. We can also force a unique nickname also. Then we also have hide the backend. If I click on hide the backend, instead of the WP login or WP-admin or whatever, I can change the URL to that instead, so that way people can't actually access it. And then I have a different URL for logging into the backend of my website, which is also a great feature. As I said at the beginning, Solid Security Pro has been a great tool for me. I run it on all of my sites and my client sites to maintain security and protect those sites. I don't have to worry about vulnerabilities, whether that be vulnerabilities due to a plugin, a user's weak password, or a brute force attack. WordPress powers a good chunk of the internet, which means it's one of the biggest targets out there. And so bots are trying to hack WordPress websites. With Solid Security Pro installed and running, the likelihood of that is going to be significantly less, because you'll be notified immediately of any issues that are going on with your site, and Solid Security Pro is always running in the background, making sure that everything is safe and secure on your WordPress site, protecting it from malicious attacks. So I've got a link in the description to Solid Security Pro. Highly recommend that you check it out. It's a small cost to protect your site against things that could definitely set you back and cost you a lot more in the future. It's one of the best insurance policies you can take out for your WordPress site, is having a great security plugin protecting it at all times. If you have any questions for me, use the comment section below. You can check out my free WordPress courses also down in the description below. That's going to do it for this video. Hit that subscribe button, give it a thumbs up, and we'll see you back in the next one. Take care.